Welcome back to Drawing Your Story, the only podcast where the interviews are reimagined into illustrations. Now, Season 6, Episode 3, we have Amy Rae Hill, who is this fantastic painter, and where she focuses her medium on is on clay pots and teacups and mugs and all that good stuff. But the inspiration is drawn from space. So she does nebulas, stars, Milky Ways, galaxies, all this sort of wonderful artwork. So detailed, it's incredible. It's absolutely amazing. Now we get to chat about a whole bunch of other stuff, a health scare, how she got into this, and it's a really fun interview. What I also loved is we both work at museums, so we got to chat a little bit about that and the kiddos and stuff. The illustration that I created for her was sort of based on that space theme with, and I'll pop it in right here, just so you can see it. It's pretty fun. So let me know if you think the illustration matches the interview, and we'll see how we go. Let's jump into it. Boosh! So, did you cop any snow up where you're from? Because you're in North Bend, right?
Yeah, it was actually pretty disappointing. We got like an inch. And it's funny you asked that because I was just walking back. We went and like got breakfast a minute ago, and there was like a King 5 crew, and they like stopped us on the street to ask about the snow.
Oh no! And you're like, well, nothing happened.
I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah.
Just leaving on the roads. Like.
You should have like thrown some sort of hissy fit and become like, I'm sick of these climate deniers, like look at this snow. And then you could have been but the one way to solve that is with these mugs.
I know. And I was thinking afterwards, man, there's so many other things I could have like taken the opportunity to say when I was out there, but it all just goes by so fast.
You need to always carry a mug on you, so if that ever happens, what you should do is just jump down to a snow angel. Like, no matter how much snow it is, you're like, it's an inch of snow. It's beautiful. And drink out of these mugs.
They keep your coffee so warm for these cold winter days.
Exactly. And you look so cool doing it.
Exactly.
As you're flopping around like a fish out of water.
Yep, nice little ad for my biz.
Yeah, I would. I actually, wherever I travel, I take a children's book or two with me. Mm-hmm. So then if I ever see a kid and they're having a hard time, be like, hey, I'm an illustrator, why don't you read this book? You guys can have it. I love doing that stuff. Secondly, I always love the saying where it's like, always, luck favors the prepared. So if I was to sit home on my couch and say like, oh, if someone just knew how like quirky I was, they would want me to write like a children's book, or they would want me to be on this YouTube podcast or whatever, right? But if I've done nothing, I can't really have anything to say or do, you know?
Exactly.
But if I have something, and like, let's say I was on that plane and someone sits next to me and they're like, oh, what do you do? And they're like, oh, I'm a children's book publisher. And I'm like, oh, hey, I got these children's books that I've done. Can you give me any advice or what? There's that like chance. It might be 1 in a billion chance, knowing how unlucky I am. But it could happen.
Well, that's all that it takes to kind of make your business survive for a long time, is just being open to like opportunities wherever they can present themselves. And but yeah, speaking of getting to know each other's art, I was saying, like, don't know much about your kind of like outside work from where we work together. So you make a lot of children's books.
I make I don't make a lot. I make I'm sporadic. So last year I did 3 children's books. So I've done like 6 or 7 in total, plus 2 I've published, I think. And that's it happens. It's just my style is not in style right now. So like the whole watercolor marks and all that, like that, this sort of like 80s kind of like cartoon exaggeration style is not as in, but these like very artsy sort of styles are in right now. And so I don't know what like so it's like people have to love that style and then be like, I'm in. And so
makes sense.
Not as many.
There's got to be the people out there though that enjoy it. As I've found with my stuff, you can't be on trend all the time, I guess, but there's always an audience out there.
I would like to think so as well. I just need to be able to get in front of those fuckers. The same with this thing. Like, to be honest, the people that will watch this will probably be people that want to watch you. So like when I post something, your followers will probably go, hey, oh, I want to see what she's like behind the ceramics, you know what I mean? But when it hasn't caught on where it's like, hey, I want to watch how this person interviews or the illustration that person will make for that person. So, but I'll get there. I feel like, as I said, luck favors the prepared. If I wasn't doing it, then there's no chance of it happening.
Exactly. It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. All right, you ready to jump into some questions?
Sure.
Sure? Okay.
Yes.
So we have... You're like, sure, I'm going to leave now. I'm done. I'm out of here. This was enough for me.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was good. Short and sweet. So do you know anything about the podcast?
I've listened to one at least, so it sounds like you talk to
that's fine.
Yeah.
I talk to anybody. Like
Okay, cool.
I literally am that person on the plane or at my pickleball court where I may not remember everybody's name, but I know a little bit about everybody's life, a little bit. And so I'll walk around and be, oh, hey, how's your kids? Oh, man, how was your, like, left toe when you kicked it on the door? Is it still okay? Like, I just will remember and stuff. I'm interested in how people's lives are and also how they got to where they are in life. So that bleeds into this type of thing here where I'm like, I love to draw and I love to learn, like, how people are in life. And this is a way to sort of dig in deeper than that a little bit.
That's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I have like 10... It used to be really long form where I'd like sit here for like hours and hours and like we'd go through your whole life. But I'm really shit at editing. And so I wasn't able to like break that down because I'd be like, oh, they said this one little piece here, but that impacts this piece up here. And like, I don't want to ruin their story for them. And so I would get sort of stuck in that.
Like production. You gotta go.
Yeah, or just even like I don't want to rip people off of what, or like, oh, someone misunderstood me because he cut out this like one sentence that gives the context for that joke later on, or this part of that story. You know what I mean? So I was like, fuck it. We're just writing it out, and I'm just taking out ums and ahs.
That makes sense. Yeah. Cool.
So I asked 10 questions, and then we like those sort of like dive in.
Nice.
And then we'll get to know you as well. So I'll let people know, on this episode we have Amy. Amy and I both work together at Museo. We cross paths slightly when we like sort of look after someone else's classes for the day or anything like that. But for the most part, we are two ships passing in the night. Except for hot.
Yeah, you taught me digital illustration for the first time.
Oh, I forgot about that. I thought you were going to say the Christmas party.
Oh.
I thought you were going to say, except for when there's a Christmas party. And then I'm being on display idiot.
No, that was fun. But also digital illustration, because that's the one thing I'd never touched for like all of my artistic life. And so thank you for making that like an approachable medium, because now I feel like I can say that I can do it, maybe not do it super well, but like it's something I can dip my toe in. I bet you pick it up real quick, because as we were teaching it now, I remember you were like pretty onto it, and you take notes. Like I haven't taken a note in my life. Like well, it's probably why I'm an idiot. Like I just feel like that it's so... I thought I would pick it up faster than I did, really, because I've done, like, you know, I've been at Museo for like 6 or almost 7 years, and so I feel like I've done just a little bit of everything, and like I'm like, oh, it's one more thing I can just, you know, put under my belt or whatever. But I feel like digital illustration, it's so different than any traditional, because you're like, your brain has to rewire the way it like processes the layers, and like you have to almost be way more organized in how you're going to do things. And so, yeah, it was a completely different like skill set that I did. I like underestimated that, I think. Yeah. Do you know what messed with me is the pen to paper, like the pen to digital, and how like when I zoom in, like, you know, when you got paper here and maybe with your ceramics, and then like you're doing something fine art, you might have glass, you might get a little magnifying glass, but like it doesn't pixelate, but you can like narrow in.
But when I was zooming in, and I'm like, it's pixelating, and I'm like, it would really mess with my mind. I'm like, how? And it took me ages to really get that fine-tuned. Now it's like second nature. But the next level up is, have you tried 3D modeling?
Oh, no, that might be a little too ambitious for me right now.
Well,
but it's cool.
Well, I was wondering with that, because you work in sort of a 3D world.
That's true.
So I wonder if your brain goes, oh.
Yeah, it might be interesting. Like, that's something I'd have to experiment with too. Because like I
should still talk to Connor.
Myself... yeah, Connor would be the one to talk to on 3D stuff. Like,
yeah.
But I feel like I'm still definitely like a 2D artist at heart, because I'm really just painting the surface of these pots, and I don't do the molding, throwing part of it. I order all my bisque like pre-made, so like I'm in this weird in-between space where it's like, I'm doing ceramics, but I'm still kind of like just a painter for the most part with it, but have to conceptualize in 3D.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Even just thinking about that, like texturizing and stuff like that in that whole part, that would be it would mess with my mind. Right? All right, let's jump into a question. It's 10 questions, and we'll jump in the first one. But as we lead on, you'll see that it develops, and we get to hear more about your work and everything like that. Okay.
Cool.
Early bird or night owl?
Probably night owl originally when I was younger, and now discipline is pushing me to be earlier. But I still have the night owl tendencies. Like, if I'm going to be painting something, I'll stay up late to like just finish it during the night rather than like pull myself up really, really early to try and get back and a jump start on it. So yeah, naturally more of a night owl.
I am the worst getting out of bed. So naturally I'm a night owl.
Mm-hmm.
So if you could have your perfect scenario, let's say that you didn't have to work at Museo and you got to work on your ceramics non-stop, you're doing collections around the world, what would be your perfect work schedule in like mind-wise?
Like I know hours. For me, it's like I'm happier, healthier if I can do it earlier. Like I think realistically, it's not constant painting, but if I'm doing like 9 a.m. to 4 or 5 would be like, I should probably do like a 9 to 5 schedule. Doesn't ever really happen like that. And I'm only painting maybe like 3 to 4 hours a day and then answering emails or doing other stuff. So it gets like tossed around. Yeah. I just think like, it'd be good for me to like have the 9 to 5 time. Because like I realize when you're doing your own schedule, if I was doing just, being an artist around the world or whatever like that, like you have to schedule your time off because you don't have a boss to do it for you. And that's one of the biggest things I learned like running my own business. And that's really hard to do sometimes when you just let your time like seep over into all the time that's supposed to be your free time. So you have to be more deliberate about that. So I'd like to have, deliberate evenings off would be nice.
Yeah.
What about you?
Just out of curiosity, do you film any of your stuff, like painting it and then put it on YouTube or anything like that?
I haven't done YouTube, but I do like reels on Instagram. So yeah, I do just short clips because I don't film like the whole process because I think that'd be like an editing nightmare, like you said, filming a long time.
A
lot.
Well, I do wonder, there is stuff like we're on Riverside right now, like you could record it to that and then do the magic clips and then have it edit itself and then pop it up. But I would be like, I love watching people create stuff. Like when I'm like, whether it's an interview that I'm hearing about people or whether I'm like, there's this old illustrator. Like I say old because when I found him, but about 10, 12 years ago, I found this illustrator called Will Terrell, and he would just draw cartoon style, but with like Copic markers on tan paper, and I fell in love with it. So I would just listen to him while I'd work at Nintendo and just be working and listen to him talk, and then I'd sort of be able to glance at the drawing, and that's when I sort of took drawing seriously. But then that made me think, imagine if you were just like, because your art style is really, really interesting, and I think in the next question we'll get into that. But I think people would really enjoy seeing that sort of come to life.
I think it's a good idea.
And YouTube pays better than what other places do. So if
Yeah,
you got,
and I mean,
like,
at this point, like Meta's not my favorite anymore, so yeah, I might have to look for other options anyway. So
Yeah.
YouTube would definitely be on my mind for that too. But I have done
not
like
that any of these none of these places are really that good, to be honest. Like, they're all just doing like stuff to like try and get your attention and do stuff to most people. So
exactly, I whittled down on my social
Meta's,
media to like one at this point.
yeah, you're on Blue Sky, just going like, yep, okay, and we're over here. It's a bit safer right now. Yeah, I feel you on that. Mm-hmm. Okay, what do you do to pay the bills?
Well, my painting, my art does pay most of my bills, but then also Museo has always been there for ever since I really started my business. So the combination of those two pays the bills.
Excellent. So let's go back to your painting and your stuff. Let's can you explain to people what that is, your business name, where they can find you, but then also what you're actually doing?
Yeah, I'm just a sole proprietor, so it's Amy Rae Hill is just my business, doing space pottery, and I paint ceramics with glaze, with like kind of detailed illustrations of outer space on like teapots and mugs, plates and bowls and things like that.
So when you say outer space, someone like me who's an idiot might go, "Oh, you're drawing aliens on coming and stealing cows." When I see your artwork, some people do that, but can you explain your art a little bit more in detail? Because I think it's, and I'm gonna pop it up here where it is. I'll pop it up, some images, and you can send them so people can see them right now. But can you explain the space paintings more than just that? Because otherwise people like me go, "Oh, we're drawing aliens and beaming up cows and rednecks."
Yeah, I didn't know how much detail you wanted on that yet, but yeah.
I want every detail.
All the detail. Okay. So yeah, I paint a lot of images from like Hubble and JWST and things like that. It there's a spectrum of like more like science-based resources I use. And they're not like photorealistic, but I try my best to paint them as accurately as I can to the image sometimes. And a lot of those come from my customers when I'll have commissions from, I've been lucky to have commissions from researchers who work at like JPL or like, planetary scientists, astrophysicists, things like that, who really want to see their research on a teapot, which has been like an honor to do.
That is so cool.
Yeah. And actually, kind of a sad story. I have a customer who just lost their house in the LA fires.
Oh, no.
JPL's really close to that. And she sent me a picture of the mug that she bought from me a few years ago, and it's like broken and from everything in the fire, sadly. And so I'm repainting that for her right now, and it's on the shelf back there. But
no way.
Yeah.
That's really amazing. That's amazing that she loved it so much that she reached out to get it again.
Yeah, and she wasn't like to be honest, she wasn't asking me to redo it, but I had to. Like, if I wish I could help rebuild your house for you, but like at the very least, I'll give you this mug back.
For how much they've gone through, like, and I've been around fires in Australia and stuff and seen people lose stuff. That small bit of help, like, you think it's just going to help that person, but they're going to like go, "Oh, there's people like willing to give." There's that happiness, and then that will spread on. Like you'd go over and help someone put their fence back up, and then they help someone else or whatever,
Exactly.
Nice.
And I feel like the kindness is in short supply a lot lately, and it's just like, do what you can to help people where you can and stuff like that. So that was just my feeling about it. But going back to your question, I do a lot of space images based on scientific research and like the Milky Way galaxy or other like nebula out there taken with other like spacecraft. A lot of the mug I was just talking about was based on the Mars rovers, on like a Mars landscape with a little tiny Perseverance rover just riding along in the sunset. But then I have more like personal pieces that I feel like are like my own. There's like, all of it's my own art, but this is the stuff that I make that is like more from my soul. Little astronaut vessels where they're just riding around making a cup look like a little weathered spacecraft. That's all kind of.
I did see that on your Instagram just recently.
Yeah, and
That
so I
was
have
looking
little.
super cool.
Thank you. There's little guys inside that are just doing different things. Yeah.
Do you ever etch into the mug to make the like seams or anything like that, or is that all painted?
It's all painted, but I do etch, like they call it sgraffito, where you kind of etch through the glaze to reveal the underneath colors. And that's what I really like about painting with glaze too. And these are all the same colors, like at Museo, like the Mako Stroke and Coat are the colors that I use too. But if you just let it dry and leave it a little wet, you can easily just like draw through it and have the color come through from underneath. Or you could fill that in with more paint. So it's like a very additive, subtractive kind of method.
Oh wow! Is it easy to overwork that stuff? Like,
yeah.
Because you can add and take away, and you're like, oh dang, I've gone too far. Or are you able to be like, I've gone too far, I can take it away, and then I can get back to where I was a little bit?
Yeah, it's really easy to wipe things off with glaze because it's really just kind of turns into a like powdery. It's almost like a just colored clay when it comes down to it. And so when you get it wet, you can just wipe it off and start over. If you're painting on bisque, like, if you're painting on clay that's not fired, that's a little harder to do to keep everything really clean. But because I'm painting on pieces that have been fired, they're already bisqued and everything, so I can just easily clean them off. But I feel like I've learned the methods and the amount of coats I want to use where I don't have to do that often, thankfully. But yeah, it's a pretty clean, malleable medium.
How'd you get into this? So can we go back just, did you go to school for art?
Yeah, I went to school. I went to Western, up in Bellingham, Western Washington University.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and
my cousin-in-law went there.
Ooh, nice. It's a really nice.
Yeah, I don't know when.
It's a nice college town. It's a nice place to live. It's just a good school.
Yeah.
But I graduated in 2013 with a degree with like painting focus. So I was doing like acrylic, medium, large scale paintings, completely different from what I'm doing now. Yeah, it was like my senior show was a series of like self-portraits of me, like as sort of like Alice through the Looking Glass, going through this like fantasy world. It's so different from what
Did you? Oh, sorry. Keep going. I had a question, but that doesn't matter.
Oh, I was just gonna say I just kind of like abandoned that, but it still maybe retained like the fantasy element that I always liked.
Oh, okay. Because I was gonna say is how far removed. Like, do you ever look back at that art and go, "What was I thinking?" Or do you look back at that art and be like, "Oh, I wish I was still doing that," or like that was just a growth period, like anything like that?
Yeah, I look back and I think that's just kind of what I needed to make then. And I think that everybody has different periods in their life where they need to make what they need to make at that time. And so I don't try to be that hard on myself. I'll look back and be like, I don't know if I'd never make this now, but at the time that was what was important to me. And I, like in school, it was kind of, I don't know that I had the best support. I remember one of my professors saying, well, maybe this is something you had to like go through, because I don't think she like enjoyed my work that much either. But at the time I was kind of annoyed about that. And I don't know, I kind of like agree now, but I'm not that hard on myself about my old work. I think a lot of people can get really critical.
I think I'm critical about every bit of work I do. Like, I think you sound very healthy. Like, you wake up in the morning, you're like, yeah, I'm pretty good. I can keep going.
Now,
like,
back then, not so much.
Oh, really? Oh.
I mean, I stopped making art for like 2 years after I graduated college because it was just, I was like burnt out and not feeling like I was fitting in with the people I was in school with. So there was definitely like a rebirth of art after that time.
So what made the rebirth then after 2 years?
I started working at a paint your own pottery studio, and that's kind of a long story, if you don't mind me going into that.
You can go for it. We're here to learn about you.
All right. Well, I was working at a paint and sip studio before that, and it was just painting on canvas for like parties and things like that. People would have wine and paint a picture.
People getting drunk. Yep.
But the management, the owner of that company was like absolute nightmare, and he was kind of like taking advantage of all of his like young female employees and stuff, like sexual harassment and things like that.
Oh,
and
shit,
so,
sorry.
Yeah, it was rough. I was like, I don't know, 24, but all of us, 4 of the 5 of his employees or something, we all just decided to quit at the same time and just like walked out because it was like really bad.
I love it.
So at that time I was like, I don't care. I'll work like at a grocery store, anywhere else that any job is better than working under this guy. And so I had a friend who worked at the Pottery studio downtown, and this is all back in Bellingham. But the one catch with leaving that paint and sip job was that there was this non-compete that I would never sign nowadays. But it was like you can't paint on canvas for another company for like 2 years after you leave their business for any reason. Which is, yeah, I know. It's like,
were you getting paid? Were you getting paid like minimum wage?
No. I was paid more than minimum wage at least.
But like, non-competes are usually for people that are like in a CEO job. What a dick to be able to say, oh, let's do a non-compete. So with someone that's not earning like probably like a wage where they're like, I'm living the life of luxury, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it definitely wasn't like life of luxury wage. But it was.
No, fuck that.
Yeah, it was just ridiculous. When I think back now, I would never have signed that. And I think like it's not very enforceable when I think about it. But it's still like I was a little worried. He's the kind of guy that would like try to enforce it.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, okay, can't do that. But my friend from school who worked at the Pottery studio was like, hey, we're gonna open a new position here that I think you'd be perfect for, and it's like a basically sample painter, sample designer, and then you'd also work in the studio and help customers and fire things and whatnot. But you'd also work with the owner and create like samples. And so I was like, well, that's not painting on canvas, painting on pottery.
Canvas, yeah. Loophole.
Yep. So
that's a big like loophole for that guy, I say.
Yeah, and so got hired there and I loved it. It was like I don't want to say best job ever. The museum was great, but it was like one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. The owner he's still running it, is very, very knowledgeable. She knew everything. It was like the polar opposite of my previous job, and I learned so much. Yeah, so that's
did that
where
restore your faith in humanity a little bit?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, so that was fun.
So how did you go? So that's where you learn about pottery. You're not in school. And like, there's the difference, right, of like making the pottery. So were they making the pottery, or were they just buying the pottery pre-made?
No, all the like paint your own pottery studios, which is what this is, they all have like, there's a few big suppliers that will ship out all of the bisque. So it's already like molded, fired, and then all the customers have to do is just paint the glaze on.
Okay, so a bisque is the one that's painted. Is the one that's been fired? Yes. Okay. You can tell. That's why they don't let me teach that stuff at Museo, because I have no idea what's going on. So you got into that at that point. What made you then like pursue it outside of there? Because to me, when I was a skateboarder, I started working in a skate shop and I stopped skating because I was like, I'm around it too much. Like I didn't want to go home and skate because I'd be like, I don't want to go and talk about skateboarding for another 2 or 3 hours. I want to go draw. I want to go surfing. I want to go do this or that.
Oh yeah, I get that.
So what made you like go pursue this more?
Yeah, I think with this job, it was like, it just kind of set my inspiration on fire because I don't know, like I wasn't actively like painting all the time on the job. Part of it was also like I was dipping, clear glazing, customer pieces, loading kilns, working with customers. It was like a lot of different things I would do, and then occasionally I would be like planning samples. And I really liked I was inspired by the people I worked with. The owner was super inspiring to me, and just how she's done all this herself as a businesswoman. Yep. And
what's the business name? We can.
Oh yeah, Creativity Pottery Studio in Bellingham. It's in Fairhaven.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll just give that a shout out for them. Sorry, continue where you were.
But yeah, go check it out. It's great. But yeah, it's just really inspiring to be around all those people. And I just felt like I wanted to make more, because when I would first see like how my art would turn out after it went in the kiln, I was like, this is really cool. I like my paintings being slow cooked and transforming.
Yeah.
So I just thought the whole process was magical, and opening the kiln still feels like Christmas morning when you're just like seeing all your presents come out of the kiln. Yeah, so that
How
was
do
a
you
cool
get
feeling.
fine detail though? Like, I've seen your work and it's really nice detail. Anytime I've gone to one of those pottery places and I'm being like, oh yeah, I'm creative, I can do this, and then I get it back and I'm like, you look like a child did this one. Back of the cupboard for that one. Like, how do you get the detail?
Well, that's the other reason I'd recommend going to the studio, because the owner does know a lot about the techniques, and I think she has a really innovative way of where she's organized these techniques that are really like effective for making a cool pattern on your pottery. So a lot of what I do is just like combining those techniques in new ways. Like she has a box for like paper masking, where you can cut out literally blank, just printer paper, make a shape, and then wet it, put it on your plate or whatever, paint around it, peel it off, and you've got like a perfect like shape or whatever you want on there. Or different ways. Yeah. And like we have an etching toolkit where you can use little toothpicks to carve in, and like there's like a little like recipe about how to do that with her books on the table. And so like learning all those different techniques, it helped me build them, synchronize them in a way I could do the subject matter that I wanted. And so when I learned all that, I was also really interested in a certain like sci-fi game I was playing called Lifeline, where it was about an astronaut being stuck on a moon. So like I learned all those different techniques, making like using bottle caps, dipping them in glaze to make little craters with that, little round circles.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know? So yeah, all these little things, I just was like, oh, I could put all that together and make a moon on a plate. And then I did that and I was like, whoa, I could do so much more with this. And that's like how it started.
Wow. So at what point do you decide that this is going to be your business?
I guess I made my first space thing in like 2016, I think. And then business officially opened in 2018 as sort of a side hobby. It wasn't my main source of income, but like the owner of Creativity, she knew the suppliers, so I got in touch with them so I could have my own relationship with them to start my own thing, where I was just selling my art to people who wanted to buy it. So I felt like I kind of had.
Did you do markets and stuff?
Yeah, I have done markets. I used to do more markets than I do now, because now mostly sales are online. But that was a good way to get out there at the beginning.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Did I guess the question is like, there's a point where people are buying them that you know, and then you're like maybe doing the markets, or how do you then switch, or like how did you go before that and be like, I want to sell these, or like it's enough for me to then make a website or to get these out there? Like how did you, like, was this just something you're like, if I can try and make this work, I'm going to try? Or is this something where the sales are growing and I'm going to ride those sales to make this online or make it bigger than what it currently was?
Yeah, I think that the best choice I made was not to have like a hard open of like just making this my full-time business, and to sort of just ease into it as much as I could. So the nice thing was like, having suppliers, I didn't have to buy like a ton of merchandise to have an order. I could buy just a few boxes, and that was convenient for me, who wasn't making this a full-time job. So it wasn't that expensive for me to try and make this into a business. I could just do it as I pleased, and as much as I wanted to. So like it was kind of steadily growing, and excuse me.
No worries.
I was also getting established like on Twitter, where there was a lot of like space people there. Like I said, scientists, astro people. One business that I really credit for like putting my name out in front of people was Startorialist, and they would like
what's that?
it's a business that has a lot of different space merch, and they would feature a lot of different space artists, especially early on their blog, and then they would sell they would do retailing for a lot of artists too, like people who make like space jewelry and stuff. And so they helped me kind of get in front of people's eyes there. So that's how I got more online sales as opposed to just like in-person stuff. And that has been the like bread and butter of my customer base there.
Oh, that's amazing. How long does a average piece take? Like if you're budgeting out your week and you're like, I need to do 20 pieces, I have no idea. I'm just assuming that you're a machine and you're cranking out 20 pieces of art a week. But how long does it usually take? Or is this a number you want to keep disclosed?
Oh no, I'll talk about it. But it is quite a range. Like if I was going to do 20 pieces, it would probably be, if I was just doing cups with like a moon or an earth on it, I could maybe get 20 done in a week. But if it's more like commissions, it would be maybe like 4. It takes a lot longer if I'm lucky. And I would say a fast commission, if I've done it before, it's a straightforward process, would be like 3 hours minimum. And even then I'd want to check it the next day to make sure that it's all clean and nice and everything like that. But a lot of artists, get faster as they go and, get to know
you're
process.
paying, like, most people are paying for the knowledge and not paying for the end product, or the end product. It doesn't matter how long it took. You're paying for the knowledge on how it got there. You know what I mean?
Right. However, I would say I'm getting slower as the years go on.
Is it because you're getting more detailed though?
Probably that. I'm getting more critical of details, and I think requests are also more complicated than they used to be. Like if I think back to my first time I ever took commissions from people, it was like just one nebula on a teapot, and now it's like a nebula and a landscape and my family, and that's totally great. I like painting detailed stuff, but now it just has kind of compounded on itself, and there's more elements. I'm more perfectionist, and so it does end up taking longer.
How do you structure your pay list then? Like, do you have a certain, hey, this commission, let's say it's this regular mug, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go, I want a nebula. Nebula, and I'm sure different nebulas with different color variants might be even harder in that tether. Do you pay by the hour? Do you go a cup? Do you just pay by the cup, and whatever you paint on that, what do you paint? Is it like you're adding different pieces, so then that starts adding up? Like, how do you structure that for people?
I've thought about different ways of doing that, but I've honestly just kept it the same across the board. If you're buying a commissioned teapot, it's this price. If you're buying a commissioned mug, it's this price. And I've had to sort of...
So you basically...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, so basically like you win on some and you lose on some, and then like sort of find it in the middle, like of your excess of time versus... Okay.
Mm-hmm. Except I have to, like, I used to just offer a lot of mugs for commission by themselves, but I was finding like I felt weird raising the price so much on just a mug that was like 12 ounces as opposed to a teapot, but I would get like just as complicated of a request for a mug as I would for something more expensive like a teapot. So I don't offer like smaller mugs as much for commissions just because it doesn't work out like time to profit ratio for me as much. So I have to balance out. Like I need to offer bigger pieces for commission rather than smaller things is the decision that I kind of came to.
I actually think someone mentioned to me this a while ago on one of the podcasts, and they were saying like a Patreon or stuff like that. It's like people are doing this stuff because they love your art and they want to support at the same time. Mm-hmm. So when I hear that, I'm like, if they want the mugs, just put the mugs at a higher price, and then if they want to buy it, that's on them. It's not on you. Yeah. And that way you don't...
Yeah, I offer a thing that's like 16 ounces. That's an angled cup. So you're getting, more for that. And also it doesn't have a pesky handle in the way that I would have to figure out what to do with. So that's my like solution to the mug, is having just a different like drinkable thing that you're getting more out of it, and it's easier to paint too.
Yeah, fair enough. How much is a commission piece normally?
So anywhere, I believe those are like $325 on the low end, and then for the cup,
Love it.
yeah. And like I said,
Yes,
I
I was
feel
so
weird like making a mug that expensive.
no,
Um,
no. Like that's like the art, the
yeah.
custom piece to it, like that. People like, and I will say this: I am so bad at it, and so I get so excited when someone's being good with it. Like you're valuing your time, you're valuing your art. You're saying, hey, if you love this enough, I'm willing to do the work, but we're gotta come together on this. And honestly,
Right.
a lot of times I bet you 325 if you break down the hours for the amount of time you paint, kiln, all the other stuff, like for something they're going to be able to keep in their house for a very long time, that's going to be that. And then you're a nice person, so adds to it.
Yeah, and it's like on the other hand, you also have to like make sure you're selling what you put out there too. So I could make prices as high
Yeah.
as I want, and then if they don't sell, then it's like, well, I'm not going to make any money then. So it's like also
Yeah.
balancing. Like I got to make it
Yeah.
enough for people to buy at the same time. But yeah, it goes from like
Do you have a
300 to like 500 ish. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. How I think you should have one product that's like $5,000. Like just one, and it's a one-off. Like you get like Connor to make you like a custom thing, or someone
Yeah.
that's like fired it, and you're like, this is like this weird shaped one. $5,000
Cool.
if you want it. Yeah, and like I'll custom make it, $5,000, whatever. Like this is the next level of it, and it's their one. Like you make one of those a year, and if people buy it, they buy it. They don't, you're like, it's no skin off your nose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool. I haven't done like I did one collaboration a while ago, but I do like these really big serving bowls that I really like painting because they're so shallow and they're smooth and they're just a cool shape. But like I don't ship those because they're bigger than like the 12-inch box, which like increases the price exponentially. And if some postal worker decides to like drop kick it and it breaks, like it would be impossible to
Yeah.
remake that. So I sell those at like live shows, but yeah, it'd be cool to do something else big and expensive.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. Have you ever done a gallery show or anything like that?
I put a piece in an art show at the Edmonds Art Festival, and then at NorWestCon last year. But I haven't done like a solo show in a long time. So yeah, it's something I haven't invested in.
Yeah, well, it's a lot of time, right, to do that, and then you're like, they sit there. Is anyone going to buy the? Like, you know what I mean? And also people don't realize when you do a lot of these shows, you actually have to pay the gallery to put your stuff in that show. They're not just working on commissions, kind of thing. But,
and oftentimes the commission rate is about 50%, which I get. You have to pay for your gallery and maintain it and stuff. But it's like business-wise, it doesn't make sense for me to do that since I can already sell things online and get 100% of what comes back to me. The only thing is I would like to be part of the community a little bit more and have those like connections to be the art world
connections and people that are the people that are in the same sort of frame of mind, so you can go into a place and you can chat about like, oh hey, did you see this artist, or blah blah blah, whatever it is. Like I feel like most artists don't really talk about art, but we're just like talking about the world from an artist's perspective a little bit. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. Kind of see things, look at things a little closer, a little differently.
Yeah, exactly. And then you get inspired by them as well, and then you can take that little bit of inspiration home and do that. What are some future goals that you would like for your business? You don't have to share them if they're like private. Don't any of these questions, if you're like, I'm not fucking sharing that, don't do it. But if you have any goals where like, hey, I would love to get one of these into NASA and they ship it into space and throw it at an alien.
Ooh, that would be cool. I think right now, I'm hoping this year that I can get a piece into WorldCon this summer, which is the World Science Fiction Convention that happens to be in Seattle this year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
When and where's that happen?
I think it is August. I don't remember the day, but it's at the Seattle Convention Center, I believe.
Okay.
And it's it has a lot of like science fiction authors there and other cool stuff in the sci-fi world. But last year it was in Glasgow, and now there happens to be in Seattle. So I'm like, I want to be there. That's my short-term goal.
how do you get into that? Are you going to just have a table there and like see if you can buy a table and put your stuff in there?
I didn't apply for a table or a booth. I just applied for the art show. I was hoping to make, like I told you, those big serving bowls. Maybe I'll do a cool new big piece for the art show portion of it, and then I can not worry about selling for like 5 days and can just walk around and enjoy all the stuff there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You should just have someone else be at the table for you, and then you get to walk around and be like, hey, the artist is super busy. She's like having to visit all these other booths. Like, make it out like you're getting asked to go to all these other booths, and they're like, oh, I can try and get her back here, and then that way it builds up your hype.
Oh yeah. Normally I have my boyfriend Ollie out there, and he helps me graciously man the table while I'm away for a little bit.
Best name, Ollie, as a skateboarder. Best name.
If only he skateboarded.
Yeah. I think he's quite the snowboarder.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Yeah. I don't know if they call them Ollies when they do it like that, but I don't know. No. All right. I hope that happens. And actually, what was the name of that again?
Worldcon.
Worldcon. Okay. My father-in-law is a huge sci-fi nerd. Like, he just loves that stuff. So I will let him know, and then I'll probably end up going with him at one of the days.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun.
Sweet.
All right, let's get through some questions. What do you do to let off the steam?
Lately I've been starting to journal, which I always wanted to like be a journaling person, but now it's finally coming to fruition, and just like it's nice to have a place just to like let out your thoughts and just close it up, especially when I feel like I'm always online and I'm always plugged into any sort of social media for my business, and like it's nice to just have somewhere to like write something down and nobody's like over your shoulder watching you, or you don't have an audience around to like listen to what you're writing. So it's just nice to have like personal space for that. So that's kind of been the main thing, I guess, lately, for the most part.
Yeah.
I
do that.
Yeah.
You like to go what, sorry?
I like to go on jogs. Running is nice. Getting some fresh air, too.
Oh, God. You're the worst. You're the worst. No one likes jogs, okay? I don't know why anyone says that. No one goes, I'm going to go out. There obviously is people, but me, I look at people that jog and I'm like, that is just terrible. Like, you're just running for nothing. You're not being chased. Yeah. If you're being chased, fine.
You gotta get the right music, run to the music, have a music video in your head.
What do you run to?
Oh, like all sorts of things. It could be like I'm in the mood for all this like classical like movie soundtrack music, or it could be just like anything from like 80s rock or something like that. More contemporary stuff too.
The only way I've done it over the years where I'm like, I'm gonna get fit this summer, and like for 3 weeks I start running, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting 1 mile, 2 miles, and then I can only do it to like hardcore like trap rap, because that makes me like feel like, all right, here we go, we're in this together, and like it's just this white guy running along, listening to like hardcore trap rap, thinking that they're way tougher than they are. But it's probably why I didn't succeed. Yeah. The next question is, if you could travel back in time, which period would you go to?
Ooh, well, that's a good question. It's hard to say because I don't know that I would enjoy a lot of different time periods from now. I think, well, yeah, just talking about music a minute ago, I guess I could say like the 1970s, 1980s to see a lot of bands that are really cool for cheap and in their prime. And that's maybe one era I would go back to.
What band would you like to see?
Like, I don't know, Queen or like Pink Floyd. Or just, like some of those. Yeah. They're not, like bands that I've always listened to, but like I just think they'd be really cool to see like live.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That would be wild. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. What about you?
All So I just had an interview yesterday, so I'm gonna have to change this up because I do this for the whole season. I said I'd love to go back before humans and see what the world was like before humans, and like, this is what it's like. Mind you, I'd probably die in the first 5 seconds because I'd be like, oh, I'm eaten by something. Oh, that's because where's the toilet paper? Oh no, I've died of something because I'm not used to this because where's my life of luxuries?
That's what I think of. I'm like, any other time way farther back, I don't think I could do it. Like, my glasses are so thick, I would need someone to make sure I have like my prescriptions. So that
do you remember Ants, the movie?
Yeah.
And he puts like a bit of dew into like a wrapped up leaf and makes a telescope.
Oh,
you have to find something to do like that, but you'd be like walking around trying to like, what do I see?
Oh gosh, yeah.
But
I would get eaten by a lion or cougar or something.
Yeah, I would love just to see, like, can you imagine the imagery? But traveling back in time, and this is why the question sort of I find interesting, because every time has like something beautiful about it, but also it's just throughout our history as humans, we have had such terrible things happen to, whether it's other people or things happen. I would love to go back and go and like see some of like the fashion of some eras. You know what I mean? Like that would be interesting to go and be like, oh wow, like this is how they did it. Or I would go back to key moments where people sort of like if and the truth about it, and I'd be like, all right, let's go back and find out how that piece is.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or go and kill Hitler. One of them. So just
it would be interesting
that
to be that person who like can prophesize what's gonna happen if you know what history is, leading to or something, and like warn people about stuff. If they listen,
I don't think people would listen to you. Yeah, I don't think they would. The only thing you could do is if you became, let's say that. Not that I am down for this guy, but let's say Elon Musk was a time traveler, right? And he was able to predict the stuff that was happening. Yeah, I know. But if you were going to do it, then you do it where you can change history for what is better. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, hey, I'm traveling time and we're going to have climate change. What businesses can I get involved in to change that? What businesses can I get in change to embolden everybody, not just a certain section of people? You know what I mean? Like, right. And start cultures and governments and stuff like that, so then everybody's sort of happy and working together to make a better world. And if you can travel back in time, then maybe you could like do that. Or you could just be bloody rich and just work the stock market and be like, whatever, I'm out.
Oh. I was going to say that first version is the most wholesome version of time travel we could probably do.
Yeah, that's the one we would want. But
yeah.
I don't... it's so hard. Like that question, as I wrote it, and I was like, this is a great one. And then the guest I had on yesterday, he's black, and he was like, none. I don't want to travel back in time. It's too bad for me and my people. And I'm like, yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Like, what can I say to that? And so,
maybe go forward.
Yeah. Yeah, at this point, you're going to have to jump real far forward. Maybe just go back to when Barack was in and you were like, hey, at least I can ride this out. When was the last time you were surprised?
Ooh. Let me think. That's a good question also. I guess I, like, not to like toot my own horn, I was kind of surprised where I'm at now from where I was like a year ago, because it was pretty like difficult. I had a difficult 2024 where I had to have surgery. Like, I've talked about it before, but I had like uterine fibroid surgery, and
I have no idea what that is, but it sounds heavy.
It's like tumors in your uterus making your life a living hell. So it's very common. They're benign, but like
really, I've never had them.
Yeah, really wrecks your life if they're in the wrong spot. And mine was like the worst kind in the wrong spot, and just like, you can't leave your house. It's just like a nightmare. So yeah, it was super tough, but I got surgery fairly quickly, like within a couple months. So that was nice. And then I kind of just, I don't know, last year was difficult dealing with like a lot of health anxiety too. After that, now I'm like, was constantly worried about stuff going wrong anywhere else. And so.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And like it was really difficult. And that's part of why I was journaling a lot too, to just pour out the thoughts in my head into the paper.
Yeah.
And just to rid myself of it. And so now I feel so much better than I did even just a few months ago, and like thinking how things can change if you really do like focus and try to work through them is like mind-blowing to the me that was around in like 2023, because I had never really like worked that consciously on my own like mental health. So I guess I was surprised that can really have a 180.
That is fantastic. At the front of this, you said, not to toot my horn, toot your own fucking horn if you've gone through some sort of fucking pain, and then you've gone, you know what, that fucked me up, and now I'm on the better side of that. That is fantastic. I would be so proud. I've been through some shit before, and being on the other side, I will say this. So I was in a car accident, 20-something years ago. I shattered my face. My eyeball was sunken back here. I've had 2 reconstruction surgeries on my face.
Ouch.
Now, yeah, like, I can't really remember the car accident and stuff like that, so I didn't deal with the pain or the shock of that. But there's, like, after effects of it that's happened. But the thing is there is this mortality thing where you think, oh, shit, other stuff can happen or that.
Right.
But as you go on, like, I forget about it. So I've got these massive scars that go across my head. Like, they're huge.
Oh, wow.
And every so often, I shave my head just so that I can remember what it was. And I almost think, like, that's the hardest part sometimes, because... And it's not the hardest part. That's a shit where... There's a part that you sort of go through, like, you know, right now you're in that part where you're like, I got over that. I'm like living it. This is awesome. Once you get past a year or 2 later, it becomes a blip in the radar. But that blip in the radar at that time was so close to, and for me, so close to not being here anymore. Like that blip just turning off, that I forget about that. And if I could keep that memory of like, hey, it can all go away so quickly, it would make me have more gratitude for going on. So my thing to you is like, keep that gratitude, because when I do have that gratitude, life feels so much better, because I'm like, I know what worse can be, and I'm living this really good life.
Wow.
So be stoked on yourself. Yeah, that's a long story. No longer. But it was more the point, like, just hold on to that gratitude, because that gets me through a lot. And like, where you feel like you're getting all that stuff out, and like that, I'm doing it. There's a part of it that's the growth, and that's the gold that you're keeping from that. Like, you've mined for that. You've done the hard work.
Well, thank you for that. But yeah, it definitely, I am holding on to, like, I gotta remember how it feels to get to this point and from where it was before. And hold on to that so that it doesn't, slip away at any point.
Yeah. Because there's times that everyone goes, I'm having a shit day. I kicked my toe, or I stubbed my toe, or I did whatever. And you're like, this day sucks. And then, I literally would then, like, catch a glance at, like, my eyes a little bit droopier on this side, or like it tucks in a little bit weird, and I'll notice that, and I'll be like, wow, you could have been dead. Like, you know what I mean? So I try and, like, put that in. Yeah. So I try to. I'm not great at it. Honestly, I'm shit at it. That's why I'm like, you do better. You seem like you're doing better than I am. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's like, growth isn't always like linear. Sometimes it's always, looping back around, and you get better some days and worse some other days. So,
My growth is like doing a roly-poly backwards, but somehow I'm moving forwards. So somehow I just keep going backwards, but yeah, maybe. I don't know. All right. Here's a fun one. Can you do a handstand?
No. Not athletic at all. Nope.
I don't think I could do a handstand to save my life. I feel like I'm athletic, but a handstand feels like that's another level of like control. Were you ever athletic?
No, never.
No?
Been athletic. Like I said, I like running, but like not, agile in that sense. Like maybe I put all my effort into art when I was growing up and like none into that field. So yeah, I can't think of anything really that I'm good at like that. Like maybe sledding.
Sledding? You know
Yeah,
what?
like
If it's ice and you're sledding, like that's brutal. I was sledding a couple of years ago. With my nephews, and I was like I'm the uncle that like, oh, let's level it up, let's get a little crazy. We were going over this little bump into a jump. My hand went into a little like ice snow hole, and I swear I almost broke my arm. And I was like, I've snowboarded and stuff like that, but I've never like, I was like, oh, did I? I didn't do it, but I was really scared, and I was like, sledding can fuck you up. Like,
yeah, there's not a lot of control.
Like if you do it, nah, there's no control, and you're just like bouncing and breaking backs, and no,
Yeah.
Too much,
Yep.
too many variables for my old body, I guess.
I can see that. It's treacherous.
Last place that you traveled to?
Like how far are we talking? Like a real out of the country thing, or just traveled? Like
This is your question to answer. You can answer them multiple if you want.
I went to now I'm like drawing a blank. This was a couple years ago. I guess like across the country. I went to Florida for a space gala a couple years ago. A few years ago now, maybe. Where they were hosting a big like party at the Kennedy Space Center for a bunch of people that knew each other online and in the space fields, and that was really cool. I got to meet some like internet friends in person for the first time, so that was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I honestly thought you were going to say I traveled to Florida to go to spring break. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, that's fun. I had a million questions for that. So when you travel like and meet these internet friends, like, is this a thing where like, do you guys know each other's faces, or if like you're like, hey, everyone who's on this group, you have to wear a lightsaber in the color of green to like get to know who you are?
No, I think I'd seen most people before. They're just like everybody from Instagram and Twitter and stuff. So, It was kind of surreal seeing people in real life, and it was one of the first things after like things opening up after COVID lockdowns. So, I'm kind of excited about that too. But also learned that like, man, Florida is a different climate from here because I'd never been to Florida before.
Oh yeah,
and it's like getting
humid,
out of the car,
huh?
like walking into a fish tank. Very humid.
I actually love humidity. Like obviously it can get too much, but like I love that sort of like moisture in the air. And Sydney in Australia has a tiny bit of it compared to Western Australia where I'm from. But when you go up to Queensland, it's much closer to the equator and it's very humid. And I kind of like that sort of like moisture in the air and stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But the problem is like you sweat everywhere you go. You don't like, you're like, oh, hey, I'm standing in the shade. Yep, still sweating. Oh, I'm like walking down the street. Oh God, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely will take the dry heat over the wet heat.
Have you always lived up here? Like if you're Pacific Northwest?
Yep, all my life. Wow.
Mostly
in the King County area, but then lived in Bellingham for a handful of years and then moved back down to this area in like 2016. So yeah, I just haven't really found a reason to leave, even though it'd be nice to do a little more traveling, but it's always kind of worked out for us here.
That's a pretty beautiful area.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle the winters?
Oh, I don't love driving in snow. I'm probably your typical like Washington like snow driver who's not really great handling that stuff.
I love driving in the snow.
Oh yeah?
Only because it's like I didn't get to when I was younger. Like in Australia, I'd never seen snow. So I'm like, there's been a couple of times where it's been like a foot or two of snow around here in Kirkland. And I used to have a Ford Escape and I'd like go around and I would just go drive around in the snow so I could like go around the corners and stuff like that. So I was like, yeah, like those ads you'll see on TV where they're like humming around in the snow and they're like really good drivers, and I'm going like 2 miles an hour, 5 miles around the corner going, yeah. That would be
Have
me.
you seen those Seattle snow videos where people are trying to drive up the hills
Oh,
and like bumper cars?
yeah. So, the worst, whenever you see those, you think, those people are idiots, right? Like, why were you driving? Now, I'd been living here. I moved here in 2007. And 2018, we moved back to Australia. Then 2021, we moved back here. But we moved back here in the winter. And it had just snowed or been snowing. And I get really bad jet lag. So when I come back here, I get up. And I'm not a night owl, but I get up really early. So I'll be up at like 3:30 or 4 in the morning. It quickly turns around, but I'm like, oh yeah, cool. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to get up. I'm making everyone breakfast. I'm like killing life. I was like, I'm going to go to the store. I knew it was icy out, but I was like, no, it was snowy out. But I was like, it's okay. We have a really steep hill that goes straight into our driveway. And so our driveway, we have a steep driveway that goes straight into our garage. And we have the two cars in the garage. One's the Ford Explorer, and one at the time was a Volvo or something like that. And it was an old one. The people next door to me, I just opened the garage to check what it would look like outside. And I see the people go outside up their little hill part in like a little two-wheeler car. And I'm like, oh, I got this. Jump in the car, get all the way to the top, and it just starts sliding down. Oh no, I've got my feet on the brakes, I've turned the car, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm about to crash two cars at once. Like, what an idiot. It literally gets within like a Coke can from each other. It's like this close. I've got my foot on the brake. I start honking. I call someone, I start honking to come out, and I'm like, you have to get someone else to move the other car in. So we had to go and move the car in so I could slide it down to get a little bit of traction and then wiggle my way back in. I was shitting myself, like every piece of that going down. God. I was almost one of those people.
And it's always like you're going just a little, like maybe half a mile an hour, and it's like, I'm gonna fall off this road or something, because I've done that before. And like, I remember a cop like just drove right by me as I was like struggling up this hill, doesn't even care. Like, it's
have you seen it where the cars are parked and it gets so icy they just start sliding? And I'm like, that would be the scariest part, where you're just like, oh, that car's just moving down. Like, I thought I had the parking brake on and everything. Yeah, that's heavy, that stuff. Last question, but I'm going to ask you, the last person I asked this question, so I'm thinking about changing it. So I want to get your opinion, okay? So I'm going to ask this question, and then the question I might change it to, and you let me know. So the first question, you had to wear a shirt with a slogan on it for a year. What does it say? Okay, keep that in mind. The second question that I might change it to is, what would you like your drawing to be? Right. So, because I'm going to do a drawing based on this interview.
Let's see. I can't think of an answer for the first question. But the second one,
you can't think of an answer. Okay, answer.
Like off the top of my head. I don't wear shirts with slogans anyway, so I can't think of much.
Yeah, I don't really either. But it's more the point of this question is to like, what would you want the world to see? Like, you know what I mean, from your perspective. Like, so for me, there's this old Ben Harper song called "Burn One Down." It's about sort of smoking weed or whatever like that. I don't smoke weed. I'm not against it. It's just not my thing. And he has this one line, this like sort of one section. If you're not doing any wrong, you're alright with me. If I'm not hurting anyone, you should be alright with you. I've got it back to front. Maybe if I remember, I'll put the quote up here. But it's basically like, if you're not hurting anyone, you're fine. If I'm not like doing it wrong, we're fine. Like, do whatever you want. Just be you. But let's not fuck with anyone else. And then we're good. And that to me is like something I'd want people to see every day. Like, you do you, just don't fuck with anyone. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that'd be similar to my answer probably. Pretty much.
I feel like you don't use this. You don't use the F word as much as I do, though.
Not as much, and also maybe not as much just like online, but in real life I do. Yeah.
That's true. I will say my Australian
students follow me on here. I'm like, wait, this ain't
yeah. Yes. Any of my students that are like watching this, if they ever find it, I'll be like, hey, this is not for you. This is for adults, and like, whatever I say on here, like, is not for anyone. So I just be like, I'm living my life out here. I can't take the Australian out of me. Like, I'm just lucky I don't say the C word every other time, because that's what a lot of Australians say.
Yeah, so, it's a little different connotation, I guess, in the US.
Very different. And I learned that the hard way many times in my life. Oh, yeah. Because I'll say it out of, like, in context in my brain, and you'll see people's eyes go, what? And I'll be like, what did I won't even know what I would have said. And and I'll be like, oh, no. That means, like, people and Australians will say the C word like it's a good thing and a bad thing. Like, you know when someone goes, like, you're hanging out with someone and you might be like, oh, what's this person like? And you'll be like, oh, that fucker. Yeah, they're pretty funny. And then you might go, oh, what's that person? That guy's a bit of a fucker. You know what I mean? I don't want to mess with him. And so the context and stuff like that. But the C word is used like that a lot. And so I'm sure I've said it a few times where I've been like, blah, blah, that, and then, like, not thought of it. Especially if I have hung out with Australians or watched an Australian show. Because then it, like, just triggers turns my Australian dial up. I think I'm swearing so much on this episode because I watched Crocodile Dundee 2 on Saturday with my kids and my nephews and stuff. So I think I was like, Australia, let's go. F this, F that. See you next Tuesday.
That's hilarious. Yeah, no, I remember, like, we don't throw that word around as much here. And, like, I used to work in a call center ages ago, like, at a certain phone company, and some guy got real mad at me and called me the C word and then just, like, hung up, but said it with, like, all of his, like, might. Like,
wow.
I would call that, like, casually.
Like, yeah. That would be, in America, that would be shocking. You'd be like, what the heck? Like, yeah, that's wild.
Very different.
So for the second question, what would you like your drawing to be? Do you think I should swap them? Do you think it should be about the drawing since it's drawn to your story, coming from an artist's perspective?
I mean, yeah, you could. I think it's up to you. I'll answer either one, honestly. Yeah. That's not very helpful, but
that does not helpful at all.
Okay. Well, what kind of drawings do you do? I don't even know what, like, I don't think I've seen what you draw from these.
I draw, like, cartoony type things.
Okay.
I should just move that thing rather than move me. So, like,
cool.
I made this for my nephews, and so, like, they love fishing. And so, but they rarely catch anything. So it's like them catching boots and toasters, trying to put the bait on, but it's always gross. They're always getting tangled. And so I made this for them for Christmas, and I'm taking them out to Suncadia in spring on a little fishing trip. So.
Oh, that's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
pretty fun.
All right. Yeah, let's swap out the question and do the second one.
You like the drawing one?
Sure.
So what would you say on the drawing one? What would you like your drawing to be?
I feel like
not that it may not impact it at all.
No, yeah, you do what you want, but I'd love to see you draw, like, your style, but, like, on a, like, space themed, like, teapot or something. Like, draw a character of your choice, like, in space on a teapot.
Okay.
Like a drawing of a teapot.
Cool. Oh, a drawing on a teapot.
Well, of a teapot. It could just be a 2D drawing, but, like, you know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I like that. Yeah, that's the sort of answer, like, because there's some people that I've done this for and they've not liked the drawing. And there's sometimes I've, like, done the drawing and I've been like, I just didn't nail it. And so I do wonder if that sort of, like, helps bridge the gap between that. But also I like the thought of, like, sometimes you fuck up, sometimes you don't land it, sometimes you don't nail it on the head. just shit happens, and that's what life is. So
Right? Just gotta have fun.
yeah, just gotta have fun. Well, Amy, that's all the questions. I've soaked up so much of your time on this wonderful half snowy 1 inch of snow day. And yeah, that's it. I'll have a drawing out to you in the next, I think you're like 3 episodes away. So it's about 4 to 6 weeks because I do them every 2 weeks. And you'll have an illustration out on that, and you get to do whatever you want with the illustration. You can burn it. You can get it tattooed on your back. You can do whatever you want.
Awesome.
I suggest the tattoo, but that's just me. Of course, of course.